Today is the deadline, people. The last day the NBA will let fans, media, players vote for who should start in the All-Star game. You have up until 11:59 Eastern time tonight. After that, your ballot turns back into a pumpkin. So where are we? Well, here are the latest fan returns. Remember, you get 3 front court players, 2 guards from each conference. So in the West, it's LeBron, AD, and Kawhi, with Paul George and Nikola Jokic on the outside right now looking in. And at guard, Luka and James Harden with Dame Lillard and, yep, the Lakers' Alex Caruso knocking on the door there. In the East, the fans picked Giannis, Pascal Siakam, and Joel Embiid up front, with Jimmy Butler and Jason Tatum still trying to elbow their way in there. And at guard, Trae Young and Kyrie Irving, with Kemba Walker and Derrick Rose still trying to get in. Now, before you get all up in arms about any of these names, complaining that it's just a popularity contest, remember 2 things. Number 1, this literally is a popularity contest, which is okay because All-Star isn't all NBA. It's not MVP or Defensive Player of the Year. Yeah, we want to select the best players, but within that, there should be a little extra weight on who thrills and entertains the most, because that is what All-Star is actually supposed to celebrate. And then number 2, don't get all crazy about the fan vote because only counts for 50%. That change was made a few years ago when internet voting flooded the ballot box and Zaza Pachulia was nearly named an All-Star starter. So now, fans get 50%, the media gets a 25% say, and the players have their own vote for a 25% say as well. Which sounds good, although the players also don't have the best track record. Some don't vote at all, some vote for their friends. Last year, Kevin Love got votes despite having played in just 4 games. Ben Moore also got a vote, and if you're saying who, it's because he's a two-way player who has never scored a single point in his NBA career. Still, overall, I am good with the 50%, 25%, 25% split. It keeps any group of us from being too dangerous. My problem is the front court, back court designations. Paul George, listed as a forward on your ballot, even though the Clippers have listed him at guard the majority of the times that he has been in the starting lineup. Jimmy Butler can only be a forward on your All-Star ballot, which means he probably won't make the cut as a starter this year. That is a little bit insane considering he is the unquestioned engine of a Miami team that's number 2 in the East, and also considering what he actually does on the basketball court. You cannot tell me he does less than those traditional guard type things than, say, Ben Simmons, who is listed at that position, or Jaylen Brown. And oh, by the way, there's LeBron. You know, the guy who takes the ball up the court for the Lakers and leads the league in assists. You can't vote for him at point guard, though, because, yeah, I actually don't know why. In this era of the NBA, positions are at best blurry and often just non-existent. All-Star voting needs to catch up so that when the All-Star game tips off and there's that great panning camera shot of what's supposed to be the 10 biggest stars of the league on the same court, you actually get the 10 biggest stars. That's the goal here, and it shouldn't require a fairy godmother for it to happen. You have voted for All-Star reserves as an NBA coach. It drives some of the rest of us crazy. Who you guys pick? How do you guys pick who you pick?
I always look at winning first. I think winning is a big part of team, and a lot of times those reserve guys are the glue to why a team wins. Then I get into the statistics behind that. But then I do give some credence to those guys who are putting up huge numbers, even if their team isn't necessarily a team that's in the playoff race. But I try to keep it in that pecking order. I just think winning is important. It should be notified and noticed that a guy is helping his team win. And, you know, those guys work their butts off to be recognized. A lot of times they don't get the praise of the stars, but I do think that those guys should be acknowledged.
Yeah, you know, a lot of things become public in today's NBA. There's a lot of leaking. We never find out the coaches' ballots. We never find it out. The only ways we typically find out who the closest missed is usually when there's an injury replacement, the commissioner gives the guy who had the next most votes. Otherwise, right, we never find out. They do a great job of keeping that quiet. And there's a reason coaches don't want to give opposing players reason.
Yeah, I don't want to give any guy ammunition to be trying to go at my team when he plays against me because he thought I snubbed him.
But the one thing you really notice, coaches typically don't reward rookies and young players, which will be interesting with Trae Young if he doesn't get the vote.
The fan vote isn't enough
as you
to carry
mentioned,
him.
Very good numbers. Will they reward a guy who's regarded as one of the worst defenders on one of the worst teams in the league. That'll be an interesting.
He's not regarded as one of the worst defenders. The numbers are the numbers.
Right.
He is in the bottom 5 of all NBA players.
Bottom 3, I believe.
Yeah. And again, that's why I said winning is my number one thing I look at. And a lot of times a young guy on a team that's not necessarily winning, they get the snub sometimes because of that.
Well, that's my bone to pick with you guys. Yes, I understand that a great player should help his team win. And again, you can go back to the Jimmy Butler example. Eric Spoelstra just made this point down in Miami. He said, look, his box score numbers might not be up with some of these other superstars in the league, but he does more to help our team win than, he does as much as anyone in the league to help our team win. I get that aspect, but when you're talking about a Ja Morant, a Trae Young, I wouldn't hold either of those guys responsible for whether their team has a winning record or not. Those are franchises that got those players because they had such a big turnaround that they needed to make. The rest of the roster needs to make a turnaround. And I do think there's an argument when picking the reserves. Again, it's the All-Star game. It is about the flash and dazzle.
They got a young guys game, right, that they still play?
The Rising Stars game, but come on.
They can go hang out over there for All-Star weekend.
He is completely on brand for NBA coaches.
He is. I would like everyone. Okay, anyway.
Typical coach.
Yeah.
I'm telling you. Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.